Instagram people, we are just waiting for Substack to go on live.
I feel like we're always waiting for Substack.
We are. I mean, it is a studio, so there is approximately 3 to 4 minutes delay, just in case some people say something that's not supposed to be said on air.
Oh.
But I'm radio trained, so I have been on the airway for 4 years and counting now. And throughout all of these 4 years, I have not once said anything that is not supposed to be said.
Yeah. Well, you know that there are some words, just while we're waiting for Substack.
It's on, but
it's
go
on
on.
now? Okay, excellent. There are some words that are totally fine in Australia, but are really terrible words in the UK and in the US. That sounds like a whole episode.
Let's talk about it behind the scene before we discuss it on air. So just in case, I do not want to get cancelled. We worked really hard to get. I think this is our 24th episode.
We're definitely getting through them, which is excellent. I'm hoping that everyone is enjoying tuning in on a Tuesday or sometimes a Wednesday.
Exactly, and we took inspiration from Taylor Swift and all of the great musicians that
Always.
we record our live performance and then release the more polished stuff, kind of slightly edited in the way that the presentation is good. I know that if you're watching live, you can't see Stephen.
No, you can't see me.
But if you want to enjoy the podcast while watching Stephen, as well as me, yours truly, go on askdrvincent.com. You can subscribe. We send newsletter every Sunday. We send you the recording of this episode every Thursday.
Yep.
At 9 o'clock, sometimes at 7 o'clock. Anyway, it's after hours, so please expect it after 5 p.m. But today, we are going to talk about winter wellness. And I thought that it is quite tricky to name our episode Winter is Coming.
Winter is coming. I was sitting at my desk on Saturday in 30-degree weather here in Sydney, thinking for a topic for this podcast. And it certainly did not feel like winter was coming on Saturday. But then by Sunday, it was 12 degrees overnight in Sydney. So that is definitely the indication that things are going to get colder. And the days will follow.
And my father-in-law actually has this theory. It is not at all scientific, but as soon as daylight saving ends, that's the start of winter when it comes to the temperature dropping.
I have some friends in Canberra who say that come the Anzac Day long weekend, which is the 26th.
Yes. And now in New South Wales, it is a public holiday when it falls on the weekend. Oh. Yes. So we get two very, very close together long weekend this month. Was it this month?
Yeah.
Easter and Anzac.
Easter and Anzac Day.
There you go. Go Christmas. Anyway, let's go back to the topic. The reason why I want to talk about it, and also this coincided with the notes that my co-host Stephen has prepared, is because a lot of times I get questions that what is it about our biology that we fall sick more often, more severely when the temperature drops, when the weather is colder, when it's in winter as opposed to summer. And there are a lot of reasons biologically and physiologically why. But at the same time, there's also a psychological aspect. There's also a lot of nuances that cause us feeling sick and actually falling sick during the colder months compared to the warmer months.
Yeah, I think that the general advice for flu shots, for example, is to get your flu shot before winter.
Yeah.
Because there are more germs that spread. Can you explain why more germs are spreading during winter?
Well, actually, the amount of germs remain the same. However, our behavior, our social behavior, significantly changed during winter or during colder months. We spend a lot more time indoors. A lot of time during winter and during colder months, we're less active. It means that our body is less fit in terms of our immune system. And not only that, we also tend to drink less amount of water when the temperature is colder. I know that it sounds and feels counterintuitive, but the way that our brain works, sometimes when it's cold, it doesn't send a thirst signal to our brain, which then compel us to drink more water.
Right.
When we're sweaty and hot and huffing and puffing, that is actually a lot more encouraging for our brain to send a signal that you should drink water, you should hydrate yourself.
So
So
we need to stay hydrated
exactly.
because, of course, we know that cells work better when they're hydrated.
Well, majority of our biology is water, so it means that when that hydration level drops, our body cannot perform and cannot function in the optimal way, including our immune system. And not only that, because if you're loyal listeners, you know that 70% of our immune system is originating from our gut health.
Mm.
And if you are not hydrated, if you are not supplying your body with enough water, our gut system, our digestive system is not performing really well. And it's like a domino effect. When you don't drink water, your body is sort of kind of not shutting down, but conserving energy because
Mm.
it needs to keep water for what they think, what our brain think as a more important biological function. For example, keeping your brain hydrated, keeping
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
your motherboard well hydrated compared to say your gut and digestive system.
Mm. You mentioned mood and psychological effects as well. Are you talking about sunlight and vitamin
Yes,
D?
exactly, like winter blues, right? So, this is one thing that is probably a little bit off topic, but because you mentioned about sunlight, a lot of us, I don't know about you, but myself certainly included, we love the idea of the red light therapy or blue light
Yeah,
therapy.
I've got some friends who have started doing it just to see if it makes a difference.
Well, at the mitochondrial level, so the idea of how this technology works is that it encourages our cells at the mitochondrial level, which is our cell's powerhouse, to perform electron transfer a lot more aggressively and a lot more efficiently.
Mm.
However, it is a big leap of jump from the cellular function all the way to what we can manifest in terms of skin health, joint health, all of these benefits that red light therapy is purported to be very helpful for. But if we take the principle of how it encourages cells to be more active, more functioning,
Yeah.
did you know that our body works exactly the same way when we're exposed to sunlight? And I'm not talking about sunbathing. I'm not talking about getting a tan under really, really intense UV light.
Mm.
I'm talking about early in the morning, late at night. That sunlight activates our cells to be more active, to be more functional. And in turn, that helps everything, including our immune system.
Mm. And you're right to warn our listeners about sunbathing. I think that quite a lot of people enjoy that pastime, but it is important to remember that the skin can burn and it can be irreversible burn within 15 minutes, which is
Yes,
pretty.
especially under the Australian sun, we have
Yeah.
a UV index. They are notoriously high, even in the cloudy days. So make sure that you're always be sun smart, sleep,
Mhm.
slap, slop, and there's another one,
No, that's right. Oh, there might be another one actually.
slide,
Slide is it?
because you have to protect your eyes too, looking into the sun, and especially if you're working outside. I'm not talking about going from your car to the office. I'm talking about people who are very active outside, people who run. I mean, there are at least two big run groups and clubs in Sydney. So I really do think that if you do this every day, you need to be even more careful and cautious when it comes to your UV exposure. And I'm not someone who are so worried or fear mongering when it comes to the sun, because sunlight helps our mood. It also helps our body to synthesize vitamin D. But like with everything, too much of even a good thing is bad for us.
Yeah. So beginning of the day, end of the day,
Yes.
check your UV indexes, and while it might be really lovely sitting outside, maybe under a tree
Or
rather
or
than
or in front of a big window. Filtered sunlight is
Yeah,
probably the best form of us enjoying and reaping the benefit from our solar system.
fantastic. While sipping a drink.
Yes. In the morning, hopefully it's not margarita, but if it's, at the end of the day,
It does.
somebody asked me the other day, Stephen, Dr. Vincent, do you drink? And sometimes when someone asks you something, right, and then you were like, the honest answer might not be too politically correct because the honest answer that I was
Mm.
going to say would be, of course, I'm running a small business. Of course I drink. But of course I said it. No, in moderation. And in all fairness, I do
Yeah.
drink in moderation. I don't drink to get drunk. Uh Not anymore.
Mm.
I don't need alcoholic beverages to be socially
Mhm.
active or to enjoy myself and to have a good time.
You didn't
I
have a shot of whiskey before the podcast?
No. Well, first of all, it wouldn't be whiskey, but that's not the matter. The fact of the matter of the fact of the matter, one of those, is that I do believe that, the reason why I wanna mention this is because, there was a research that had just been published, and the author of this paper, claimed that there is no amount of alcohol that is healthy.
Mm.
So that French paradox that says that a glass of red wine every day helps
Yeah,
your
yeah.
cardiovascular health and everything. And I have to say that I'm a little bit skeptical because even in the past, both Western and Eastern herbal medicine, they're all in the form of tincture,
Mm.
which is an alcoholic extract of herbs, right? So I probably would want to see a lot more evidence when it comes to the impact of alcohol or moderate intake of alcohol to
Mm.
our health.
Yeah, definitely. And there are so many factors in there, your body weight, what you have in your stomach,
That's correct.
uh,
And the
some
frequency
blood types as well react differently to alcohol.
and some ethnicities, because I know that a lot of my people, Asian people, cannot handle alcohol
Mm.
by what I meant by cannot handle alcohol is that there is this enzyme, the alcohol dehydrogenase, I think that's the name of the enzyme in our system that helps to break down alcohol into, water and carbon dioxide and everything, and then your body will then process and digest and metabolize it. The absence of this specific enzyme in certain ethnicities, majority of these cases are found in people of Asian descent or ethnicities, cause things like Asian flush. Have you ever heard
Mm.
about that?
I have, and in fact, apparently there is a tablet that you can take now to avoid Asian flush. I
I
don't I haven't looked into it any more than that.
So there are tablets, there are also patches, and they all of these things have one thing in common. They do not work. They're really good with their marketing though. I truly believe that when you are being confronted or when you are facing something, you can always learn. Sometimes you're learning from their success. Sometimes you're learning from the things that they do that you probably didn't think of, because obviously there is a huge market in terms of young people who have this condition of Asian flush, but they want to drink. They don't want to be socially awkward because, I don't really care.
Mm.
I don't have this condition, but even if I do, I think that, it probably makes me more attractive. But it's really, really smart to capitalize on this opportunity. But at the same time, I also believe that everything, including things that comes with vanity, needs to be at least grounded in science. And I
Okay,
don't believe in this.
yeah. Let's go back to, the winter activities. I put in the newsletter, that I don't like the wind, which is very much a thing, for me. So, in Sydney, for example, there is a little bit less wind over winter. And so I'm much more likely to
Not on
be
Sunday.
not on this past Sunday, but I'm much more likely to be out on my bike, because I quite like bike riding, and bike riding without wind is good. The other thing that I really love to do in winter is, night diving, scuba diving.
Yes, this is one thing that I am very fascinated. I snorkel, and I always believe that the scuba diver people, this are a bit higher tier of water activity, because it actually, I don't know why I'm even speaking about this because you should be, but the way that I think about scuba diving, it has a lot of elements that are very much humbling to our human biology.
Mm,
You have to make decisions, quick decisions and calculation when it comes to descending, ascending, making sure that you're across all of the metrics from the monitor on your wrist, making sure
mhm.
that you're aware of your environment, your spatial awareness needs to be
Yep.
really good.
You
And
need to think in 3D.
yes, and if you're diving with someone, hopefully you do,
You
you
should. Yes.
you need to be able to communicate in the way that, because you can't dive and talk.
Mm. You can dive at hand signal, and there are whole YouTube channels dedicated to the hand signals that people have come up with scuba diving. Um,
Is it a universal signal? Like
uh,
like, you know, like,
there definitely are. There's universal signals for sharks, for example.
"Oh, show us." Oh, okay, well, of course. I well, you really have to tune in on Thursday because, you know yep,
What's that one? Yeah,
that's that's from a toddler song.
yeah, exactly.
Wow. So
But I wanted to come back to the things that you need to focus on. And I really love scuba diving, so I could talk for hours about it. But the thing that it really helps me with is focus. And you're right that you need to be aware of your surroundings. You're right that you need to be aware of the things that are allowing you to breathe. But some of the best scuba divers that I've ever met, one of the things that I see that they've learnt to do is slow down, and that is so important. I think it's is really important for you to have an enjoyable dive. But when you think about it, there are a lot of activities that you can do: yoga, Pilates, other others, other activities like that that make you focus on breath. And scuba diving is one of those. And so, being focused on breath, you should never hold your breath while you're scuba diving. It's very, very important, particularly if you're changing levels. Uh, but being aware of your environment is really important, and it's an exciting way to see things that you can't see any other way. It's an exciting way to go out and spend time with friends, and then there are all sorts of wonderful conversations that happen afterwards about what you've seen and what you really enjoyed. But forcing you to slow down, to think of your breathing, to yes, you're thinking in 3D because you need to maintain your levels, etc. But then you start to notice things. So in Sydney, particularly, there are these levels of water, and they're called thermoclines. And so it's where colder water meets warmer water.
okay, I've
And
heard about this.
yeah, so in Sydney at the moment, the water is unreasonably warm for this time of year, but it's warm enough for you to go swimming in still. In Sydney, we dive in a 5 millimeter wetsuit
Okay.
typically, but if you go slightly deeper, you may go through a thermocline where there's cold water that's coming up from the deep, which is much colder, that is hitting the warmer water that's sitting on top of it. And when you go through that thermocline, you really, if you're paying attention, you really notice because you go from water that might be 18 or 19 or 20 degrees into water that might be 12 or 13 degrees. And I can tell you that makes a big difference.
Well, the closest experience that I can relate when it comes to what you just described is that when you accidentally knock over the tap and then in the shower, and then it went from like really
It's
hot to
quite
like
like
really
that.
cold.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But all of those things are actually really good for your body.
Yes, and I am particularly interested in what you mentioned about breathing, because one of the reasons, biological reason why we tend to fall sick during winter or colder months is the way that we breathe and the condition of our airways.
Mm,
Because when the temperature drops, usually it is accompanied by drier air, air or lower humidity in the air,
yeah.
and that dry environment and low humidity really increases the inflammation rate of our airways, and that then can
Mhm.
cause things like postnasal drip. If people have a certain types of allergy, that makes them a lot more sensitive towards
Mhm.
allergens, and that can cause a much deeper and complex, breathing problem or immunity problem when it comes to chest infection, for example, or couple that when you have dehydration or mixing around in a close environment and then close proximity with people, because people tend to stay indoors
Yeah,
during winter. You're exchanging a lot of things,
you are.
including viruses and bacteria.
The humidity thing is quite fascinating as well, and you've just made me think of an Australian face mask manufacturer who explains, and according to them, I haven't looked it up. I probably should have fact checked it before talking about it. But the humidity that typically they maintain on aircraft, so when you're flying, is quite
It's
low.
very low. Yes.
And so that actually makes sense that if there's someone in the cabin that's got a cough and they're quite close to you, because the humidity is low, you're potentially more susceptible.
In theory, yes, but the amount of effort that goes into filtering the air in the
Right, right.
aircraft is actually really quite amazing. I
Okay.
mean, no offense, but
Mhm.
you're old enough to think or to remember. Sorry, you're old enough to remember when you could still, smoke
You could. I remember
in the
smoking on
aircraft.
planes. That's right.
Yeah, and then, I remember this when I was really little, and, I remember watching the safety guide, the safety video, and they said that during the emergency landing, make sure you
You
extinguish your
put out your
you put
cigarette.
out your
Yeah.
cigarette. I was like, and my younger siblings were like, "What?" Anyway, so the reason why I brought that up is because the HEPA filter in the aircraft, in the cabin, was actually really, really powerful. To the point where, now that a lot more, investigation and studies being done on policies during the pandemic, during COVID-19 time,
Mm.
actually show us that, traveling, flying or traveling in the aircraft, during that time was actually really quite safe because of this powerful
Because of
filtration
the
system.
filtration system, yeah. I understand that on a lot of aircraft, every 4 seats, I think, gets its own filter. So that's pretty much, yeah, as good as you're gonna get, I guess.
Yes, but the dryness does have negative impact on our immune system, but not so much in that way.
Okay. So
So
everyone can keep flying.
everyone can keep flying,
Yep.
uh, a- and also pay attention to your skin hydration and or moisture level. A lot of us
Mhm.
don't think our skin as something that has anything to do with our immune system. A lot of us only think about our skin when it comes to vanity, myself included. However, uh, when you look much deeper into our biological system, our skin really is the first line of defense when it comes to our immune system.
Mm.
We touch things, we get in contact with stuff. That our pores, our skin is very susceptible towards being in touch with viruses, bacteria, pathogens, and the level of humidity and moisture in our skin determines how resilient our skin as a barrier can
Okay.
be. So when it's cracked and dry, not only it is not very good visually, it also makes it a lot more brittle when it comes to protecting us from pathogenic exposure.
Fascinating, fascinating. I guess the skin is our largest organ,
It is our
so
largest
we should
organ.
treat it like that.
We should treat it like that. And I am actually really interested to see how the health and wellness industry uh, take on skin in the future, because
Mm,
more and more now we have seen the rise of functional skincares. People talk a lot more about the healthy barrier, maintaining a balanced pH on our skin. It's no longer just about looking, flawless or anti-aging
mm,
or glowing. There's a lot more information and education and interest from customers and consumers when it comes to maintaining a healthy skin, because
Yeah.
we we talk a lot about our body, and like you said, skin is our largest organ. I think this is probably one of a very, very visceral example that prevention is the best form of treatment, because uh, there was one video circulating online. You can look it up, not now. You can look it up after that. It shows it it is a time lapse, or maybe it is an AI generated, but basically it shows the difference between people who are wearing sunscreen or are being sun smart compared to people who are exposed to high index of UV exposure. So it really does make a lot of difference on your skin. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but if you are lucky to live to like 80, 100 years old, over time, it does make a lot of difference whether or not you are looking the best you can with skin that's functioning at its optimally when you are looking after it versus if you don't really care about it
Yeah. So, Vincent, what are your recommendations for keeping active during
during
winter
winter.
and during cold times?
People always say that this summer bodies are built in winter.
Hmm.
I agree with that, but at the same time, I also try to convince myself that what you do during summer or during warmer months determines determine what you do during colder months. What I'm saying is that last year we did a survey amongst our followers and customers and people that I can ask questions. The number of steps that you take on average per day during colder months
Mm.
are actually 33% lower compared to the average amount of steps that you take daily on warmer months. So if we just accept that we will be less active during the colder months and we start off being a lot more active during the warmer months, even when we have that decline in activity, we're still within a healthy, you know, uh, activity level
Range. Yeah.
range. And I do believe in this because our brain is so easily manipulated, including by us, by ourselves. So if we try to be really, really active, try to hit that 10,000 steps every day, maybe we will only hit 7,000 or 6,000 during the winter months,
Mm.
and that's fine. But if you start off with 6,000, come July, you'll be at 4,000. So
Yeah.
I do believe that what you do, what you convince yourself to do in terms of what you, routine, including your diet, including your water intake, really helps your body to brace for winter. Because we just have to we just have to accept it. During winter, we're less active. We spend a lot more time indoors. We're probably um, we're probably eating things that are heavier because there's a reason why they call it comfort food, because we're eating for our body physically, but at the same time, it also nourishes us mentally. So I think it is very important to listen to our body and to work with our body instead of against it.
Mm.
Are there
Yeah.
things that you do during winter that you wish to change, or or how you've changed a habit during winter that you can share with us?
Yeah, look, I think that there are lots of opportunities for us these days to make use of indoor gyms, of course, and maybe we go to the gym during summer as well. Of course, sometimes gyms are a little bit hot to go to summer during summer, so a lot of people move their activities outside. So it might be time almost to move some of those activities back inside. But also, there are a bunch of sports which are really focused on indoor play. Uh, I think pickleball is outdoor, racquetball is indoor.
I think it's the other way around.
Maybe it's the other way
The
around.
other way around. But this is something that if you're up to it, we should start pickleball, because um, I have to say that the very first time I knew about pickleball was when Matthew Perry passed
Mhm.
away after a pickleball practice or something, and I don't know why I didn't know about
Yeah.
pickleball before, and then this piece of information just got
Mm.
stuck in my head. But since then, I kept wanting to like, I want to start pickleball, but unfortunately, there are only 24 hours in a day, and I have to sleep as well on top of doing all of this. And that is a good segue to talk about sleep
Excellent. I was going to bring up sleep as well.
because it is the cornerstone of our health. It is very important for our body to be able to reset
Mm.
and recuperate. And the absence of sleep alone can actually cause our immune system to be less resilient.
Yeah.
We are less able to make good decisions. So when it comes to our diet, our hydration level, our movement, our spatial awareness, people who don't sleep very well tend to have a fall and accident a lot more often and frequent compared to people with a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that go into a good sleep. And just like summer and winter, that whatever that you do in the summer determine what how you will be active or non-active during winter. I believe that what we do during the day when we're awake determine how good of a sleep that we have during the night.
Yeah. Yeah. I, for me personally, I like a little bit of a cooler room. I'm really enjoying the colder nights at the moment because I like being under a blanket. Have
It
what do you
just feels so snuggly, right? Like
exactly?
I do not mind a cold room as long as I have
Mm.
sufficient padding.
Mm.
I like really thick Duna,
Yeah.
really, insulated because I have to say that biologically our body needs to cool down so that it can sleep. It can rest. That is just
Mm.
scientific fact. However, I do know that some people sleep hot and some people sleep cool.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I agree with you. I do not mind the room being cold, cool or cold, maybe cold, as long as I'm well insulated.
Yeah. Definitely. I tend to regulate when I'm sleeping, at least, through my feet, which
So
is
are you
is
one
is
of those
also quite
people who
common.
like a lizard and put the feet outside
My
of
feet will
Duna?
be outside the doona. That's right. Even when it's really cold, if I get too hot because I'm under a doona or a blanket that's too hot, my feet will go out first.
Wow. Does that also mean that because some people actually sleep with socks on?
Yeah, I can't sleep with socks on. That's not me.
Well, that would go against your thermoregulating
Exactly.
regulation, right?
It's exactly right.
But yeah, sleep is really important. And I don't know, do you find that you sleep better during winter or during summer?
It's a good question. I think I think it depends a bit on the amount of activity. And so it comes back to your comment around being hydrated and prepared to sleep. I think that for me anyway, if I go on a run in the evening, and I tend to exercise more in the afternoon, evening. If I do that and then I have a meal, I need a couple of
You
hours
get longer
before
time to
there's a longer
settle
time
to
to
s
set.
to settle.
Exactly.
Are you one of those people who get affected by daylight savings?
I quite like daylight savings. I'm not as impacted by the amount of light as some other people. It's actually a thing in the UK, for example.
Yes,
So
the
during
winter blue.
during the winter months, when the sun sets at 3 o'clock in the afternoon,
Yeah, that's hard.
it really.
I mean, every time I visit London, which tends to be their summer, right? I always said, "I
Mhm.
can live here. I could live here." And then everybody would like, "Yeah, no, no."
The first time I visited London, it was over Christmas,
Well,
and
that's different though, with all the lights and festivity.
that was the only thing that made it fun.
Again, that's probably why they drink. Don't come at me. I'm not generalizing. I'm just saying that, um, that's a
Mm,
that's a joke. Sorry. I'm not gonna dig a deeper hole for myself. The other thing that I'm also thinking when it comes to winter wellness is that I feel that when we are prepared, when we just accept the fact that we eventually probably will get sick because of all of the factors that we have discussed before.
Yeah.
Do you think that subconsciously we are preparing our body as well as our psychological, you know, space to pay more attention to our health? And therefore, people who are generally active and healthy will largely remain healthy and active during winter.
Mm. And I absolutely, definitely agree with that. I am one of those people that I try not to take any drugs. I try to eat naturally. I'd prefer not to do anything that is chemical. I don't get sick that often, but I've just gone to get my flu shot.
Well,
um,
flu shot. I believe in flu shot.
mm,
I know that a lot of people, some people don't.
yep.
Not because of the vaccine thing. It's
No.
just because uh, uh, they don't believe in flu shots. And I have to say that I want to make sure that I give myself and my body its best chance to fight against all of these
And
strains of
that's the way I see
influenza.
it as well, yeah.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the meals that I'm making at the moment, they have, a fair amount of iron in
Yes.
them, a little bit more energy, but unless you pair iron with, a citrus or a
Something
vitamin
that's rich
C.
in vitamin C, it's very hard for your body to absorb it.
Exactly, and so thinking about some of your meals and making sure that if you are having, more red meat, that's going to deliver some nutrients to your body, that you're having that red meat or you're having those things with active ingredients and active vitamins that allow your body to utilize.
I'm thinking for this week's newsletter, we need to do some citrusy salad dressing recipe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
There are so many of them. And we're so lucky in Australia that we have access to so many different types of citrus as well.
Including yuzu, which I just discovered a few weeks ago and it changed my life.
Change your life.
Yes. And for some reason, and this is excuse my ignorance, for some reason, for the longest time, I thought yuzu was a type of pear. Obviously, I was
Okay.
wrong. Uh, and I was invited by this chain, Fishbowl,
Hmm.
to try the yuzu series, and I'm not plugging them. This is just a story, true story. And I went there fully expecting it to be, I don't know,
Mm.
like, that sweet. I thought it was like Korean inspired because in my head it was like Korean pear, pickle, and
Yep.
stuff like that. But no, it's so vivacious and bright, and it was
It
so
is
good.
a really bright citrus,
I
which
love
is
it.
great. Yeah, yeah. It pairs very well with a bunch of other things as well. So
And it is
I'll talk
so
a bit about that.
sharp that it cuts through the creamier part of the dressing, which is really amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Calamari is another one
I
that
know calamansi.
I really love.
That is such a Southeast Asian fruit. I love calamansi.
And have you heard of Buddha's hand?
Is that finger lime?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. The other type of citrus that I really like, lemon kaffir or lime
Hmm.
kaffir.
Yep. Yeah.
Uh,
I have a tree in my backyard.
I do too, but
Yeah.
I have not been able to get it to fruit. I'm using the leaves though
Mm,
because I use it a lot in my cooking,
yeah.
both curry as well as cocktail.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But we're coming into winter, so if you have a tree or if you have produce, do a little bit of Googling maybe and work out how to store some of those things.
yes,
Kaffir lime leaves store
they freeze really
freeze
really
really
well.
well. If you've got a citrus, you can actually you can add it with some olive oil, just a little bit of olive oil, into an ice cube tray
Yes.
and freeze it as well. Most citrus freezes not too bad.
Yeah, and the other thing that I also want to mention is that you have heard this term "eat seasonally."
Mm.
To us, living in the post World War II, where the Industrial Revolution, the Agricultural Revolution was like really making sure that all of this food can be accessible at any time of the year. But back in the day, eating seasonally means a lot more than what we think it is now. And that is not for no reason because Mother Nature, the earth, somehow know what type of food, what type of tubers, what type of vegetables they are grown during the colder
Mm.
months. They are complementary to help our immune system.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes when people say the good old days, it's not all bad because all of this cultural education and information and knowledge and wisdom, they're not for nothing, you know. People in the past, I mean, we're so lucky we live in the era of modern medicine that we can trivialize things like infection, cuts, even more serious diseases. But back in the day, food literally was their medicine.
Mm. It sounds like we have another podcast to talk about
Food as medicine.
medicine, foods as medicine for sure.
Yes,
I'm quite passionate about Aboriginal bush medicines as well, so we can talk about that too. But I
yes.
guess for our winter introduction to winter episode, what I guess I've heard is we need to stay active,
We need to stay hydrated.
we need to stay hydrated, we need to still focus on our sleep,
Yes,
always important. But then we also need to think about the kinds of foods that we're having, and perhaps if there are foods that aren't going to be available or as available in July, for example, then maybe we start storing them today, or look for replacements that are seasonally uh, accurate for the location that you're in. And I
yes.
stumbled a bit there because we've got listeners from all around the place.
I know. I just did, and I was going to post it on my Instagram. I just did a demographic analysis of our
Ah,
subscriber and followers all across of our social media, and 23% of our followers and audience are from the United States of America. So I'm so sorry for all of you who are listening to Winter Wellness. You're like, what are they talking about? We're going into summer. Lucky you. But yeah,
we can do a US episode.
we can do a US episode, maybe when I'm in the US, because next week I have news for you guys. But maybe instead of taking a 2 weeks hiatus, maybe we can zoom in from, from the coldest place on earth, Chicago. I like no disrespect to my team members in Chicago, and our headquarter of our US operation is in Chicago. But gosh, that is the coldest place I've ever visited in my life. I mean, I've been to Canada in the dead of winter, I've been to
Yeah.
Korea in the dead of winter, but the wind chill factor in downtown Chicago, I felt that this is it. I'm going to call it. I'm gonna die.
Well, Vincent, I have a challenge for you then. When you're in Chicago, you need to ask the locals what they do over their winters to stay warm, stay hydrated, keep moving. You might discover pickleball over there as well.
So my co-founder for my American brand, Vincent, his name is Charlie. I've spoken and talked about him before. So he, like me, he is a big walker. So he walk everywhere, which actually means a lot more in America because American cities are not built for
Some
walking.
of them don't have sidewalks.
They don't.
It's
Some of
crazy.
you're right,
Yeah.
but he is a big walker, and he always said to me that if you dress properly and right,
Mm.
you shouldn't complain.
Look, this is and this will be my last comment because we're getting to the end of the podcast here. But one of the things while looking at how other cultures deal with the coldness and weather is actually through layers. So instead of
Yes,
having one really super warm coat, you layer your clothing, which allows you to regulate, which makes
I was
complete
about to
sense.
say, yes, it makes complete sense, and it is so interesting that our ancestors from many, many millennia ago know how to do that. And I really do think that we should have an episode not only on the food as medicine, but we should have like a throwback episode as to how, because isn't it so fascinating that throughout human history, throughout
Mm.
evolution, somehow Homo sapiens, which is us human, modern human, made it. But our genetical cousin, Neanderthal, for example, didn't
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah. Well, and Neanderthal were actually really quite successful in winter environments
Yes,
or colder environments.
exactly. And I mean, through popular culture and a fictional account of Neanderthal, we associate this race of
Hominids.
human
Yep.
as dumb and stupid. But just because they didn't make it doesn't mean that they are stupid. I don't know.
No.
I don't know the answer to that. I probably need to do a little bit more reading. And
Hmm.
but this is something. Evolution is something that I'm always very intrigued and interested in.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, on that note, I want to say that stay well this winter. I really do think that we need to arm our body and our system with everything that we can do to make sure that we have a healthy and happy winter. Because the last thing you want is, being sick when it's cold, because it just is not something that you want to feel during winter.
Exactly. Stay safe on the slopes if you're a skier as well. Don't go nuts. The older that you get, the harder it is for you to fall. Remember that?
That is correct, and the harder for the bone to heal. So make sure that you look after yourself. Be sensible. Be cautious. You don't have to be scared and worried, but it pays to be more cautious and to be more well informed, and also to be more understanding and accepting to what your body can do. And this goes not only for skiing. This goes for winter activities, sports, running, sleeping,
Scuba diving.
scuba diving, and the list goes on. Thank you so much, people who. Oh, hi. Thank you so much for saying hello from Instagram. Sorry, I totally missed that. We will answer that question on our newsletter. Make sure that you read our newsletter. Go to askdrvincent.com and subscribe. It's free. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Vincent.
I will see you next week.
Next
Bye
week
bye.
it is. Bye.